Hey, welcome back for another episode of Control Your Brain with me, Dr. Trish Leigh. In this episode, I want to break down the difference between victim and victor in your own life. And if you've been struggling with chronic illness, attention difficulties, lack of motivation, internet addictions, and more, you are in the right place, because a victor mentality plus the tools and skills to get you there can really be a difference maker in your life. Getting out of victim mentality and being stuck in a proverbial negative feedback loop, downward spiral. I want to upward spiral you today. So get out your journal, get your pen, because every episode has a brain hack strategy at the end. And we're going to dig in right now. Here's what we're going to do in this episode. First of all, I'm going to parse out the difference between victim and victor. And hopefully that's going to make a lot of things come clear for you. Then I'm going to share the brain pattern between victim and victor. I'm going to talk about purpose. I'm going to talk about neurological regulation as it leads to self-regulation. And I'm going to discuss what I am now calling the pyramid of possibilities. And then, of course, we're going to get to your brain hack strategy, where I help you reframe victim into victor. Okay, I know we got a lot to do, but we're going to break it down fairly quickly here in this episode. So get a cup of coffee and buckle up. Let's go. Okay, so when you're stuck in a negative situation, and situation is the important word, it's not your life. It is a life situation that sometimes seems to be your life. It can be really, really difficult to upward spiral yourself. And that's literally why I'm here today. I had a conversation with one of my clients the other day, and it was really difficult for him to reframe his situation from feeling like a victim to it, within it, to becoming a victor over it. And it doesn't always mean you get to change your situation, but what it does mean is you get to thrive within it instead of surviving due to it. So let's break that down. So what is victim, or what am I calling victim? The primary aspects of victimhood is whatever thing you have going on, whether it be a chronic illness, you've been sick for a long time, dealing with, feeling junky. If you have not had the ability to focus and attend and be motivated towards your goals, you just can't seem to get on track. Or if you keep falling back into the screen, which is a super normal stimulus, it's going to pull you in. If you find yourself in that situation and you say to yourself, this stinks that this is happening to me, there's nothing I can do about it, I give up, I will just have to deal with what's going on. That's victim mentality. You're giving away all the control that you have in the situation, and it can really, really impact the way that you approach life. If you think to yourself, I don't want this for my life. And, so many of those things, I don't want them for your life either. I don't want them for my life. And I've had to deal with some of that. But in the things I've had to deal with, which I'm going to share a couple things here today that I haven't actually shared with anybody. So I'm going to share some of those things that have sent me into victim mentality for a minute before I pulled myself up from my bootstraps and pulled myself back out of victim mentality and back into being the victor in my life. I'm going to share some of those. But victim mentality is, I don't want this for my life. I can't deal with it. I'm going to run and hide. And the screen is a really great place to run and hide. Some people run to medications. Some people run to illicit drugs. Some people run to alcohol. Some people run to shows and escapism. But all of that is regulating from without yourself, outside of yourself. That is not self-regulation. And when we get stressed out because we're stuck in a chronic life situation that we don't want, a stress response will send us into that survival mode where we're just getting by. And when you say, I don't want this for my life, you know what you're doing? You're rejecting yourself. And yes, I'm talking to myself here too. But it's rejection. So write that down in your journal. This is really important. When you feel like a victim, you are rejecting the situation that has shown up in your life. And I know a lot of them feel like they deserve rejecting. But the way life works is you're served these situations so that they are opportunities for growth if you take them. And that is why the mentality and then the skills and tools to shift into Victor is so important, because every single time you learn and grow and you become stronger from a situation, you're better equipped to handle the next situation that shows up. Plus, you're being forged into the best version of yourself. That's why I like to think of myself as a piece of coal that is being all that pressure that's being put on me, and I'm being squashed, and I'm all that pressure on me, I'm becoming a diamond. Without all the pressure, guess what? I stay a lump of coal. The pressure is necessary to take me from victim into victor, from coal into a diamond. So become a diamond with me. And I know a lot of people don't like when I use the word opportunity, but they really are opportunities if you see them, if you don't reject them. So part of what we're going to do here today is there's no more rejecting the things that you need to do in the situation that you're in. You have to accept them and expect them to work in your favor. Not always the easiest thing to do. But that, my friend, is the mentality of a victor. A victor, and in the thumbnail, I have a crown, because a victor owns his or her power and becomes majestic, honestly, becomes the king or queen of his or her domain. You get to become the leading actor in the most awesome movie of your life. It is your life. You become the leading actor who overcomes all that adversity in the hero's journey and becomes the best version of yourself with the outcome that you want. If you become the victor. Victims never get to that best outcome in the rom-coms. They stay stuck the victim unless the hero's journey is the shifting of victim to victor. And if you don't know what the hero's journey is, it was outlined. It's basically every movie premise that there is, every good movie at least, where, there's adversity, there's something bad that goes wrong, and the victim of circumstance has to figure out how to overcome. And they find their peeps along the way, and they forge new strength and courage in the face of fear, and they move forward doing the things they need to do to get to where they want to go. But they have sights on where they want to go. They're not just floundering around. And that comes through acceptance and expectance. Expectance is, okay, this is the thing that I'm dealing with, but here's how I'm going to use it as an opportunity. And we're going to talk specifically in just a minute. But right now I'm still framing victim mentality versus victor mentality. A victor knows everything that is happening in your life is for you. It can serve you. Actually, some of it's coming from you, and that's going to be part of our solution here. So what is part of the victor mentality? The victor mentality is all about what I'm going to call here ARP. It is framework shifting the victim mentality into having a positive attitude, controlling your responses so that they work out in your favor, and shifting your perception. And we're going to call that ARP. And it's necessary to shift that ARP to get where you want to go. And the reason I said that a lot of your circumstances are coming from you, because when you're stuck or perceivingly stuck in something that you think you didn't deserve and you don't want, you don't see how then you gain an attitude and a perspective about it, and that you start to react to it. Instead of having a positive attitude and healthy responses and a perception of, I'm going to use this to grow, you might be stuck in your bed thinking, woe is me, I cannot handle this, I cannot do one more day of this, and reacting to everything that comes along, and then, not seeing that you actually have onus of control. You can control the situation. You can't stop it in many cases, but you can control it through your attitude, your perceptions, and especially your responses, not reactions. And guess what all of that comes from? All of that comes from self-regulation, your ability to regulate yourself from within, not having to go to something outside of yourself, another person, or behaviors like going into the screen and watching much too much of social media, or especially crossing over into explicit media. Those are all numbing behaviors because you're rejecting your current situation. When you grab the reins on your current situation and you go, you know what? Screw it. I'm going to win from this thing. And I have the attitude that when life serves me lemons, I am going to make lemonade. I am. And you know how you take lemons and you make lemonade? You add sugar. And the sugar is the positive attitude, the healthy responses, and the shift in perception. And it's absolutely fundamental. Okay, so let me share some examples before you're probably there going, oh, listen to her. Nothing's ever happened to her. It's easy for her to go, stop being a victim and be a victor. Well, I've had lots, unfortunately, or fortunately, whichever way you look at it, adversity to overcome. But I'm going to share the most recent one. And if you don't know, I have struggled with toxic mold poisoning for years now, but I've known about it for a year. I had to move out of my home and get rid of every single one of my belongings. I became very ill. My children, even my dog, became ill. It's been a journey. So some of the things that happen, which there's lots of them, and I'll probably share over time, but one thing that happened was I was getting sick from my home and primarily up in my office I've lived there for, now we will have owned our home for 10 years, but we've been out for a year. So 9 years I was in the house and being low grade toxified from my, the air handler in my office. And it was making me, more and more chronically ill over time without me totally being able to put my thumb on it. I went to lots of doctors. I had to switch dentists a couple times. I got an eye infection. I got a tooth infection. Nobody could tell me, which both of them led to surgeries. I was blowing up like a balloon. You can see all of those on my other YouTube channel. Yeah. Nothing like having it happen to you, but also having videos of every single one of those things. But actually, in hindsight, it shows my ability to stay on purpose, which is also part of the solution throughout a difficult time. Anyway, the point about that was, I was literally in a downward spiral from toxins, but maintaining my attitude of trying to figure it out and maintaining the attitude of I can only control what I can control. So having a good attitude, healthy responses, mustering up courage, and having my perception. So ARPing it. I'm ARPing this thing. At one point, I was diagnosed with a 93% chance of cancer, which that was a real low point in that journey. And I'm like, hell no, am I having cancer? Because toxins, if they're in your body for a really long time, they lead to autoimmune diseases which I also have had. The autoimmune diseases can lead to cancer because the cells are so dysfunctional. So getting a cancer diagnosis, I felt like I wanted to move into victim mode because I was completely overwhelmed. And then I shifted it very quickly. And I'm like, I am doubling down on healing. And we're going to talk about this in the exercise in a minute. Double down on healing, which I did. And I didn't share that with anybody. I only shared it with a few very close people. I didn't tell my parents. Sorry, mom and dad. I told them eventually. I didn't tell my siblings. I didn't tell Jamie, my executive assistant. I didn't want anybody's negative juju on it. I didn't want anybody worrying about me. Worry's negative energy. And we're going to go to brain patterns in a second. I knew my parents would freak out and worry about me. I only told my friends that I knew would send me positive energy. I had to keep the hubs off the ledge because he was ledgy fresh, if you know what I mean. I told him, dude, I will not be able to be around you unless you can get your action together because you're worried about me while I'm regulating myself from within, which I did. And this amazing thing, I had an ultrasound that showed that there was a nodule that was cancerous and it was large. And then the next, I was supposed to go for a biopsy. This is an awesome story, but I'll make it quick. I was supposed to go for a biopsy, and the biopsy was scheduled, and that day the day we were on our way to the biopsy, and my husband threw out text to both of our families to pray for me and to everybody get their mind on, healing for me. And it was on our way to the doctor to get the biopsy. And we get there, and the woman tells us that we were not scheduled in a biopsy appointment time. And my husband's starting to freak out because he wants this biopsy. And I'm like, dude, let's just go with it. Let's let this flow. Chill, stay chill. Of course, I'm nervous, but I'm staying chill because I've been working on it, all the healing things, which I'll share in other videos. So anyways, the doctor's assistant comes back in and she's like, you know what, the doctor would like an updated ultrasound because it had been a month and a half since the one that I had. And I doubled down on healing, just to say that again. So they take me in and they do the ultrasound, and the nodule had shrunk and it had changed its formation. So it was no longer cancerous in formation. And at that point, there was a much less risk of cancer, a very low risk. And then since then, I've had to go back and had another ultrasound, and the nodule is shrunk more than half the size that it was the first time. Healing, baby. Our bodies and our brains are innately designed to heal when we push them in the direction of healing. But if I stayed in victim mentality, that would have never, ever, ever happened. I got myself to, I am not having cancer. I am going to do what I need to do, and I'm going to keep my mind peaceful, and I'm going to focus on my body's ability to heal itself. Now, of course, that one worked out great. I'm going to share one more that didn't work out so great yet, and hopefully it will in the end. Okay, so this one's difficult for me to share too. Throughout this whole toxin journey, all my teeth have moved. That is tragic for me. I had eye problems, which I've always enjoyed vision. Thankfully, my brain has always been fine because thinking is my very favorite thing in the world. But I did like having straight teeth, I will tell you. They have all moved, and there's a couple obvious ones. I won't point them out to you. But they've all moved. So I went to different dentists, and a lot of doctors did me wrong. A lot of the dentists did me wrong. One of them has since made up for that, or tried to at least, by spending an hour with me, because I had told her, I'm like, I think this is going on. And she's like, that's not a thing. That can't go on. I didn't know it was mycotoxin poisoning at that point, but I told her, I think there's something going on like in my body that I thought it was H. pylori. And she's like, that's not a thing. I was very close to what it was. I just didn't know this was a thing. So anyways, all my teeth have moved, and I had to get a retainer. I'm 50 years old. I had to get a retainer, and I have to get braces to have my teeth move back. I just went to a periodontist not that long ago, and I will have to have gum grafting to be able to have my teeth handle braces. So I can either accept my teeth that are now moved, which I don't love, or I can't move my teeth back. Actually, if I would have known in the moments when they were moving, I would have gone and got a retainer earlier, but I was really sick. So of course I wasn't able to think about all that stuff. So anyways, they're no longer movable. So I don't have the ability to double down on healing. They are now the way they are now because they've already kind of set themselves back in stone. So I can be woe is me, or I can do the things that I need to do and have a positive attitude about my retainer. Yeah, I know. And some days it's a pill to swallow, but at the same time, I can stay in gratitude that retainers are a thing. I can stay in gratitude that I did go and figure that out and was able to ward off more of the problems that I would have had. I can set my sights on the expectation that I will, in fact, shift them back. And I can keep my sights on healing as I continue to move forward. So, I wasn't able to mind over matter that one in the moment, but I'm still able to use the art method to move me through staying in peace that, yes, this situation's part of my journey. No, I wouldn't wish it on anybody. And of course, I wish I didn't have to deal with it, but that's not a thing in my life. I have to. This is what showed up for me. So instead of rejecting it, I'm accepting it and I'm expecting it to work out. But I'm not just sitting around and expecting it to work out. If you've met me, I'm very pragmatic. So not only am I doing the things in the world to make it work out, I'm also doing the inner work to make it work out. We had to move out of our home, gutted the entire thing. And of course, my husband's taking the quote unquote opportunity to upgrade everything. So the beautiful thing is when we move back in, which is why it's taken a year, we're hoping to move back in a month. When we move back in, everything's going to be updated, everything's going to be uber clean, and everything is going to be well maintained into the future. And I'm going to talk about that in a second when we get to our activity. Okay, so let's move forward into our pyramid of possibilities in terms of neurological regulation. And first, let's start by talking about the brain pattern of a victim and the brain pattern of a victor. Victim mentality is when you're stuck in problem-seeking mode and in overwhelm. And I get it. I know how it feels. I just tried to share those two examples to let you know, and those are honestly probably small examples from the rest of my life journey, but ones we can use from the immediate past. So the victim mentality is you keep looking at the problem and being upset about it and keep being overwhelmed by it. It is a brain pattern of very fast energy and very slow energy simultaneously. You feel exhausted and you feel stressed out at the same time. I call it pendulum brain. And if your brain is swinging back and forth between extra fast and extra slow, it takes a toll on your brain, your body, and your mind. It is not the energy of problem solving. That's why victims tend to stay victims, because they're using the wrong brain mode to become a victor and to make the lemonade that you need to make. So to be able to become the victor, what you need to do is get your brain regulated. Get your brain in that medium speed of calm focus. And when you're calm and focused, you can make decisions with confidence and courage in the face of fear. You can know you're going to be okay and that you're going to be better than okay. You're no longer going to survive in the mode you've been in. You're going to thrive, even if your stinking teeth are crooked. You're going to thrive. You'll figure it out in the end. It's all figure outable, all of it. No matter how big it is figure outable. No matter how long term it is. And that's example from the teeth that I wanted to share with you. This is going to be years for me to fix, not overnight. Thankfully, the cancer thing was only a couple months. But the teeth thing, even though it's lower grade, and honestly, I have a couple bigger grade things, not necessarily health-wise, but emotionally-wise, that, I can't solve. They have to unfold over time. I can't just flip a switch and make them change in the moment. I have to have the fortitude to flow with it as it unfolds itself. And I'm gaining that fortitude through these experiences. You have the opportunity to do that too. That's the mentality of the victor. I'm going to thrive no matter what comes at me. I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to double down on regulating from within. And I'm going to get my brain into that calm focus mode. And this is what I'm here to tell you. If you do have a really stressful thing happening in your life, it's extra difficult to get your brain out of pendulum brain into the green zone of calm focus. I know it. I've experienced it multiple times across my lifetime, and I've experienced it most recently again. When being toxified by mycotoxins puts your brain and body into autonomic nervous system dysfunction. So inherently, my brain was trying to go into fight or flight. And honestly, I think because I've always done neurofeedback brain training, my brain was able to stay out of fight or flight. I've obviously, I can, maybe not obvious to you, but I can use technology to map my own brain, and I can see how my brain is performing in my brain training sessions. And I never really got that I had a major problem because my brain always stayed in a good, very good position, but it's neurofeedback that kept it there, even though I was being toxified, which I really give a lot of credit to neurofeedback, even more than I did before this experience. But my point about that is you're going to have to swim upstream a little bit if you do have a really stressful situation that is swinging your brain into pendulum brain. You have to swim upstream, do the healing things to get yourself into the regulated, calm, focused mode, then become the victor in your life. Neurological regulation's essential because it leads to self-regulation. Neurological regulation is taking that pendulum, bringing it into the middle. You now are in problem-solving mode, not problem-seeking mode, not overwhelm mode, and you're able to move forward with a positive attitude, healthy responses, and shifted perception of, I got this. Okay, so pyramid of possibilities in terms of neurological regulation. I've put this together recently to be able to offer you solutions at different levels, which I always try to do for people because I get it and I've had to make a lot of healing thing decisions for myself. And so this is the way that I think of it. There's 3 tiers in the pyramid of possibilities. The lowest tier is the largest and the broadest. And in terms of investments, it costs the least in terms of money, but usually it takes more time and energy. It's an entry level possibility for healing. In the mid tier is time, money, and energy are kind of spread out amongst each other. So your investment, there is a financial investment. It's higher than nothing, but it's not as high as it could be, and it requires more time and energy than if you were at the top tier, advanced elite solutions. And there, it costs you more money, but it saves you time and energy. And I've just put these ideas into the pyramid of possibilities. This isn't rocket science. This is how the whole world exists in terms of tiers of what you can invest in to help yourself. And again, I've hit financial fatigue, running out of dough to have to put at healing. So I've had to make these choices. You know, some of the supplements I take are $100 for a bottle. Do I want to invest $100 in a bottle of that supplement? Or do I want to buy a lower grade product for $20? Honestly, sometimes I've bought the $100 ones because they detox me faster. They cost me more money, but they work. So it takes me less time and energy to get the junk out of my body. So if I'm able to invest in that, I'm able to. Other times I'm like, you know what? That thing's not worth it. I was going to buy a lymph presso machine. Yeah, we'll talk about all the healing things later, but it was like $10,000 and it was coming from Australia. And I'm like, you know what? I cannot invest in that. And I bought a lower grade one off Amazon that cost $1,000. Does it work like the $10,000 one? Not to the same degree, but I've invested in the mid tier. You know, the low tier one is I give myself a lymph massage and it costs me no money, but it's going to take me a lot of extra time and energy and I'm going to have to figure out how to do it. And I'm probably not going to do it half as well as having some assistance. So you get the idea. So let's move on to how does that apply in terms of neurological regulation. Here's your 3 tiers. Your bottom level tier is 3-minute brain breaks and meditation. So you don't have to buy anything. You just have to set an alarm on your phone and throughout your day, take 3-minute brain breaks where you sit in a chair and you do nothing. Nothing. What it's going to do is bring your brain down out of the pendulum effect and it's going to reset that baseline. It's going to help you get closer to that calm, focused green zone mode. It doesn't cost you anything. It costs you 3 minutes at a time as often as you can. On top of that, you should do longer meditation sessions, 13 minutes. And meditation sessions are you sit in that chair and when thoughts come in, you let the thoughts go. You just stay present in your environment. You can sit outside, feel the wind, listen to the birds, feel the sun on your body, or just listen to the stillness of the room that you're in. It's amazing when you give your brain that break. That's an entry-level, basic, lower tier, but it's going to help you. That's totally better than nothing. That is really powerful. And I still do those things on top of I do the next 2 tiers. The next tier in terms of neurological regulation is Get the Brain Training Headband. They've changed their structure a bit, so I don't want to speak specifically in this video on how they're offering it, but basically it is a headband that goes across your forehead. It has 5 sensors in it that sense how your brain is performing, and it teaches your brain to make more of calm focus speed and make less of the extra fast and the extra slow speed. And if you use that headband daily, and I use mine daily, it's going to help continue to bring you back into calm focus. It's an amazing tool. I just did a presentation a few weeks ago. It's by the Muse company that makes the headband that I support. And I did a presentation for them, and I looked in my app, and I've been musing since 2014 consistently. So it's an amazing thing. And I've gone through a couple of the headbands because I use them so much. My family uses it. It really is an amazing tool to keep your brain in calm focus. Victor, stay in Victor mode. Then at the very top tier are the services that I offer. And I'm not here talking about them because I offer them. I offer them because I care about them the most in the world. Back when I started, I offered, or when I was at the university, not that I offered, but when I was working as a college professor at the university, I knew of every single type of neurotherapy that was out there. I still know about all of them and other holistic types of therapies. But as I learned about all of them, it kind of funneled into neurofeedback and brain mapping because I saw that the most power was there in using a QEEG brain map to identify exactly how your brain is performing. It doesn't put anything into your system. It just reads how your brain is performing. And then the way that I do it is it's all online. If you have a Muse headband, I mail you a sensor, we mail you paste. You take the brain map using specialized software that goes along with the Muse hardware, and I can totally see what your brain is doing, how it's performing, and I share that with you in a 1-hour Zoom. Then, if you want to do neurofeedback and coaching with me, you use the professional software and you can watch Netflix, Apple, you can stream whatever shows you like, you can watch YouTube, you can listen to Spotify, there's games and there's audio. It's much easier to get a lot of brain training sessions, which again, they don't put anything into your brain. Those sessions just teach your brain to make more calm focus mode. And in this case, when it comes to professional neurofeedback, I set it specifically to reduce whatever is being made too much in your brain in whatever areas. I can set individual protocols for you. And so if your brain is doing something that's more specific than what the Muse does, professional neurofeedback can adjust that and can help train that down or train it up. Whatever your brain needs, I'm able to do. And it's very personalized and individualized to you. That's what the brain map does. It lets me see what your brain is doing so I know exactly what it needs. And the gains and the outcomes that people get are mind-blowing. We're in the midst of trying to get more testimonials from people because this past week has been amazing what people have been telling us about the gains in their life. It's really a game changer. And I've been using neurofeedback for 10 years now also. Consistently, and I studied it at the university before that. So those are your tiers. Those are your pyramid of possibility tiers. Lower tier, meditation, 3-minute brain breaks. Mid tier, get the Muse headband, start using it yourself. It produces graphs. It'll show you how your brain is performing in a limited capacity. You'll be able to train calm focus. You want to know exactly what your brain is doing in every single parameter, get a brain map. And of course, those tiers go up. There's greater investments with each one of them. They're all going to help you. Tap into the pyramid of possibilities. Okay, now let's get to your brain hack and let's wrap it up. Your brain hack for today is in your journal, create 2 columns. Write them. In the first column, victim. In the second column, victor. And you might not be able to do this in one shot, but give it a shot first of all. Give it a chance. Sit in your chair. Think of all the thoughts and behaviors that you might classify as victim mentality and list them all. Then in the victor column, I want you to think about how you can reframe those. Reframe them into how can you think differently? How can you behave differently? And I made myself in my journal, I made myself a chart. And I started to do this, and I try not to stay in victim mentality too long, but here's some of the victim thoughts that I had. When this first happened to me with the whole mycotoxin poisoning from my home, and actually I went off on an unassuming home inspector at a holiday party. I didn't go off. I just shared my concerns. My bestie is a realtor, so there was a home inspector, which actually I've become friendly with him. I was a little miffed that homes can be sold that are filled with toxic mold and no inspectors looking for it. So one of my victim mentalities was, this stinks. I would have never bought this house had I known there was mold in the wall of my office, right? But, it's hidden way back where nobody could see unless you dug in. And I'm like, you know what? Home inspectors should be digging in. So that was one of them. Then victim, woe is me, builder of the house really screwed me. Victim, that's not owning my control. There was some victim stuff around doctors and dentists. It's like, if they would have advised me well, I would have been able to shave years off this situation. I wouldn't have lost an eye. Thankfully, I had eye surgery to repair the eye. I wouldn't have lost the tooth and all my teeth wouldn't have moved. It's like, if other people would have hooked me up and if they would have known, because I've had some conversations with doctors who have told me that it was ridiculous things that were incurable and have no cause. And I'm like, look, my brain doesn't work that way. Everything has a cause and everything's curable. So let's move on from that conversation to something else. Of course, I found the cause and I found the healing mechanisms also, but it took me a decade, unfortunately. So, but those are the victim thoughts. Now to the victor thoughts is, you know what? I've had this experience. It has helped me to stay in a thing that's difficult and not die and to do the healing things that I need to do. It's created much more parasympathetic time, rest and digest, because I am a hustler. I like to go, 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 which is sympathetic dominance, which is not good for autonomic nervous system dysfunction. So I've had to create a lot more downtime for myself, which that's been a blessing for sure. And I'm still working on it, and it will absolutely serve me into the next couple seasons of my life. Another thing my sisters and I talked about is there's things in my home I didn't even know I need to maintain because we weren't taught that from our family. And I'm like, I am now going to maintain my home. I'm going to have the cleanest place on earth. So if there's ever a zombie apocalypse and they are tear gassing, come to my house because I will have the cleanest air quality available, because that's how I'm going to ride out the rest of my days. Is now I know knowledge is power. And so I do feel blessed that I'm going to age better than I would have ever aged had I not realized how to maintain air quality. Air quality is the biggest thing I've learned from this. I actually thought this today because I went to a fundraiser breakfast, and I always thought I ate clean, but now I eat a lot cleaner because I don't want to put any toxins in the body. And I'm really grateful that I've learned to the 1% of, how to eat healthy, because again, it's going to serve me into the next seasons of my life. When all this stuff first happened, my husband didn't believe me. I didn't know what was going on. And you might have heard me tell this story, but I'm like, dude, I think the house is killing me. And he's like, you're nuts, and I'm like, I'm sure the house is killing me. I don't know how, but I slept on my back porch for 5 nights. It was 85 degrees in the middle of North Carolina summer. Not a pleasant experience. I took a mattress and I put it out there, and I started to get a little bit better, and I went and rented myself a townhouse. And I'm like, I love you, babe, but this house is killing me. I don't know why and how, but I have to move out for a while. Totally crazy experience, doing that because he didn't believe me, but I learned to trust my intuition. And then, of course, he came on board, and he had to deal with a really difficult process of, leaving our home and getting rid of all of our stuff. Our children had to get rid of everything. We have 6 children, so that's a lot of kids getting rid of a lot of belongings. But we call it the Great Purge of 2022. Our family's never been closer. And, there's so many blessings from it. But again, I'm a diamond, man. I'm coal that's been squeezed into oblivion over the past couple years, but I'm coming out a diamond. I'm going to squeeze some lemonade out of these here lemons. I just have to add a little sugar. Okay, I hope that helps you out. And dear friend who I was talking to the other day about victim versus victor, hopefully this breaks it down a little bit more for you. Get the chart out and reframe it. Reframe the, I don't want to be in this, I reject this, accept it and expect it to serve you, and it will. All right, remember, control your brain or it'll control you. I'll see you next time.